It's like at the end of the day, the amount of time that they put in, they're making pennies on the dollar, and that's why they stop doing them. And so it's like, if you want to have long-term success in this, and if you want to do this long-term to like bless other moms, then you have to change something.
Hey, my name is Jenna Kutcher, and I am obsessed with all things business, marketing, numbers, and helping you to navigate both the messy and the magical seasons of this thing called life. I'm a small town mama who took a $300 camera, grew a successful photo biz, and now I work from home and run a 7-figure online business. I teach you the tried and true secrets to building a career you adore. Shy away from the real talk? No way. Money, hardship, growth, loss, and marketing are all topics we discuss here. Think of this as your one-stop shop for happy hour with a gal pal mixed with business school. Pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Goal Digger Podcast.
It's no secret that entrepreneurship is hard. Between long days, sleepless nights, and making tough decisions, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. And when you combine the challenges of entrepreneurship with being a mom and having a full-time job, well, let's just say the stakes are even higher. Balancing the demands of entrepreneurship, motherhood, and a full-time job requires a special kind of determination and resilience. It's a journey that tests your limits and pushes you to grow in ways you never even imagined. However, despite the challenges, the rewards can be immense, both personally and professionally. In this podcast episode, I am coaching Goal Digger listener Gillian Behnke, who is the founder of Mom Camp. It's a company dedicated to helping moms put themselves back on their priority list. Gillian hosts weekend retreats for moms that include incredible speakers and workshops, delicious food and wine, movement classes, campfires, outdoor activities, and so much more. It's all about helping moms reignite their spark and reconnect to themselves as humans alongside being a mom, partner, employee, or boss. I mean, it sounds amazing, right? Now, Jillian is doing some really important work, but she's also struggling with navigating the challenging waters of managing a full-time job alongside of running Mom Camp and all of the other endeavors. In today's conversation, we're discussing how to balance all of the things. I also give Jillian advice on how to host exceptional experiences that actually return a profit because, let's be honest, events are expensive. Are you ready to explore practical strategies and mindset shifts to apply to your own juggling act? Today's episode is for you. Let's dive on into my coaching session with Jillian. And by the way, if you would like the opportunity to join me for a coaching session in the future, make sure to join the Goal Digger Podcast Facebook group. It's our insiders group. We're linking it for you in the show notes and the episode description of today. Watch there. Every single month, we do a post to find our coaching candidate. Without further ado, Jillian, welcome to the Goal Digger Podcast. Finding a service solution that helps you better connect with customers and keep them happy can feel impossible. Like trying to remember the name of that girl you just met at a networking event. Was it Mia or Leah? Or could it be Sophia? Yeah, that kind of impossible. HubSpot's all new Service Hub can help. Well, with the service solution part at least, it brings service and success together on one powerful platform for the first time ever. Between an AI-powered help desk and an AI chatbot that handles frontline tickets fast, you can scale, support, and drive retention and revenue. Plus, it comes with a customer success workspace that helps reps anticipate customer needs. With a full 360 view of every customer, your go-to-market team can keep a pulse on accounts before ever trying to upsell or cross-sell. And you know what that means? Better service and happier customers at every stage of their journey. Visit HubSpot.com/service to do more for your customers today. That's HubSpot.com/service. Growing a business can feel really hard, and starting one can be even harder. We as entrepreneurs need a community around us to learn from, to ask questions to, and to be inspired by. That's why you're here, right? Well, there's another great podcast that will help with that. It's called This is Small Business. You'll hear from people you love, including me. That's right. I was just on an episode of This is Small Business. The episode is all about why you need an email list. You'll hear me share all the strategies I use to grow my email list, how we make on average $2 a month for every subscriber, and you'll hear how cutting my salary in half was actually what led me to grow my business to 7 figures. The host is Andrea Marquez, And she dives into all the questions you have about how to start and grow a small business. Like, how can you use social media to reach new customers? How do you get a business loan? And how much should you charge for your products? This show is full of practical insights you can apply to your business right now. Go follow This Is Small Business, an original podcast from Amazon, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. Big thanks to This Is Small Business for sponsoring this show. Put This Is Small Business alongside Goal Digger in your podcast rotation now. I am so honored and excited. I love these coaching sessions. And Jillian, I'm just so grateful to spend time with you today. And so I feel like we're going to cover so much ground. And I know that this episode is going to help so many of our listeners. So before we dive in, just tell everyone a little bit about you, kind of your stage of life, where you're at, what you're working on, and then we'll get into the coaching.
Awesome. Jenna, thank you so much for having me here. This is honestly a bucket list item to be talking to you like this. So my name is Gillian Behnke, and I am a mom of two, 14 and 17-year-olds. And then I work full-time in the events and HR industry. It's kind of a combination job. If I could design my dream full-time job, this would be it. So it's awesome. And then on the side, I run a business called Mom Camp. I founded this business called Mom Camp that's all about empowering moms to put themselves back on their own priority list. And we do that through weekend retreats and have a podcast as well. And so, yeah, that's really my life in a nutshell right now. Teens, job, side hustle, all the things.
I mean, you're not busy at all, right?
No. Oh, and I published a planner. I just did that in my spare time. So I'm a bit insane, but yeah.
All right, let's dive on in and let's start walking through this together. And one thing that I also am just so excited about this is that you and I are in such different stages of lives, but there are so many similarities and places that we overlap. And so I'm just so excited to give my perspective. But I also want to say, if I am off base at any point, you can say, this doesn't resonate, or like, this doesn't make sense for my life right now. So I'm kind of excited to dive in.
Awesome. All right. So number one question, as I've said, I work full time and I have two kids and I have the side hustle. So really for me, I'm pretty good at self-care and prioritizing. It's what I talk about with moms. So that's sort of what I preach, right? Yeah. And I walk the talk. But what I want to make sure I'm doing is in those limited pockets of time that I have to spend on my business outside of work, how do I know I'm spending my time on the right things that are actually going to move the needle?
Yes. Okay. So I have so many thoughts on this, and I am so obsessed with return on investment, with investment being time. Like, I think that a lot of people look at ROI, especially males in the business industry, and they're like, okay, how much am I spending? How much am I making? And I think for a lot of moms, we look at time as our currency in maybe just a slightly different way than our counterparts. And so I think this question is so spot on. And so the first thing that I want to kind of touch base on is we kind of have three different channels in your business, right? Yeah. So we have the events, we have the podcast, and then we have the journal. And so what would be a strong ROI in terms of your podcast? So how are you measuring the return on your podcast? I'm just curious on that.
It's a really great question. So financially, I will be totally transparent. There is no return on the investment for the podcast unless I can draw a through line between people that listen to the podcast and then come to a camp, right? That could turn into that. But I know that it is creating loyal followers and listeners. Yeah. They love going for walks, walking their kids to school and listening and being part of the conversation. And so I know that's working, but it also, as you know, takes a lot of time. But I love the conversations. So it also energizes me and reminds me that I'm doing what I should be doing. So it's the return on investment for me is more energetically as opposed to revenue driven.
Yes. But okay, I love that.
But then do I spend the time on that, right? So
I think that's a really powerful thing to honor and talk about, especially too. Like, passion has to be a part of it. And I don't think that every single thing we do has to be tied to revenue, but we also want to make sure that we're shooting for something there, right? Yeah. So that we are strategic in a way that is allowing us to connect some of the dots. And so one of the things that I was thinking about with your podcast is making sure that in every single episode, you talk about your planner and having it either be like, hey, this episode is made possible because of my planner, or referencing how you're using it and where someone can get it. And one thing that can be really interesting to do, and this is something we didn't really do well in the past, is creating specific links that you are able to track so that you can see, okay, how much traffic from the podcast is actually going to join my event or to buy the planner, and being able to kind of see that through line that gives you confidence that you're spending time on the right things. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to time and being strapped on time, all we really want is to feel like we're spending our time in the right places, right?
Yes.
It's not necessarily being like, I am making X amount of dollars in this hour. It's that if I am away from my kids or I'm taking time away from other things in my life, I just want to make sure it's worth it. And I think that is what saves us from feeling guilty, which is a problem that a lot of us deal with. And so do not hesitate to be strategic with your podcast. If you are creating this free content every week, make sure in every single description, you have a link for your events, your wait list, and your planner. And like, talk about those things. Like, don't be shy. You can integrate it into the content itself and bring up stories from, you know, at my past retreat, I met this mom and this is what she was going through. Or again, just talking about your daily practice. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, because podcasting, a lot of people think they're like, oh, you just sit down and talk, but like there are so many other pieces to it. And so that's just one challenge I have for you. The second thing that I would think about is with the planner, is it a planner or journal? Planner.
It's a planner. Yeah. 90-day planner.
Okay. A 90-day planner. So in theory, if somebody starts using it and they enjoy it, they would be buying multiple planners throughout the year. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to make sure that anyone that is buying the planner falls in love with it. It becomes a part of their daily practice. How do we teach them to incorporate this practice so that they fully use the planner? And then of course they need another one. And so again, we want to think about, like, this could be as simple as you, Jillian, recording a 1-hour masterclass on the most effective ways to use this planner. How am I using this planner? How are my students using this planner? Why did I design it this way? This is the space that I use for this. This is how I audit my planner, like whatever that is, and walking people through it. Because the more that you can get people success with it, the more likely they are to come back and purchase it again. One thing that I just got in my email and I was like, oh, this was so smart, is I had bought some non-toxic sunless tanner, and apparently it expires, and I didn't know that. And the company had triggered an email saying, hey, your order from 6 months ago is expiring. Now is a great time to stop. Yes. And I was like, wait, like this would be a great opportunity to make sure, you know, at the 75-day mark, you're reaching out to anyone who bought a planner and saying, hey, there's a good chance you're down to the last few weeks. Now would be a great time to buy your next planner. And so again, when I was thinking about you, because I was thinking about you, I was just thinking about how some of these little pieces of strategy could really help anchor in the results. And most of them can just become either like autopilot or automated so that, again, it's not taking up more time. Does this resonate?
This 100% does. It feels like I've been doing the right foundational things, but not the pieces to actually drive it, right? Like this absolutely makes sense. And I talk about the events and things on the podcast, but I don't link out on the planner. I don't follow up. I know, like I know it's ridiculous, but this makes so much sense. These are such simple strategies that are so targeted that can actually do so much. So this is huge. This is huge. Yeah.
Hey, goal diggers. Lately, I've been getting excited to finish furnishing our new home, which is why I want to tell you about a brand that we absolutely love, which is Article. I have been a fan and a customer of Article for years. I'm always blown away by the curated assortment of furniture styles they offer. They have mid-century modern, coastal, industrial, Scandinavian, and even boho designs. There is something for everyone, no matter your taste. In our last house, we had their sofa and leather chairs. At our lake house, we have their dining table and chairs.
We also just ordered some of their outdoor furniture for our new patio. Like, if you can't tell, we are obsessed with Article. The quality and style are top notch. Article's online only model means that they can offer some great prices with fast and hassle-free delivery. Pick the delivery time that works for you, and they keep you updated every step of the way. Article's customer is also amazing. They're knowledgeable, friendly, and always there when you need them. If you're like me and you're itching to give your home a makeover, I highly recommend checking out Article. They believe in delightful design for every home, and thanks to their commitment to style, quality, and affordability, it's never been easier to transform your space. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/goaldigger and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/goaldigger for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. When it comes to content creation, you either do it because you love it or because you know it's a powerful business tool. Now, either way, it takes a ton of work. Whether you're building your website from scratch or struggling to manage payments, you need Kajabi. Kajabi is the ultimate one-stop shop that's been my go-to for almost a decade. Yes, nearly a decade. It's designed to help creators and entrepreneurs build thriving online businesses with steady recurring income. Whether it's blogging, coaching, or podcasting, Kajabi makes it simple to transform your passion into profitable online courses, exclusive membership sites, and so much more. Over the years, Kajabi has been my rock, from hosting my signature courses like the Pinterest Lab to handling transactions without taking a single penny of my money. That's right. You get to keep 100% of what you earn. With Kajabi, you get powerful analytics, simple payment options, effective email marketing tools, and beautiful website templates that you can customize. And here's a little secret. You don't need a massive following to earn a great income. There are thousands of creators on Kajabi who are making 6 and 7 figures with less than 50,000 followers, and you can be one of them. Right now, Kajabi is offering a free 30-day trial to start your business if you go to kajabi.com/goal. That's KAJABI.com/goal. Join the creators and entrepreneurs who have made over $7 billion today at kajabi.com/goal. And one thing that I want to remind you of too is like selling can be a service in this way. And so it's like, if you're talking about this awesome event and someone is like, oh man, I need this, but you're making it hard for them to find it, or like, they're like, oh, I'll circle back or I'll Google it later. Then like you're taking away that act of service that you can just connect them to. And again, it can be as simple as just saying, I'll link it for you in the show description of today's episode. So you don't even have to say like, if you want to join the next, and you can do both.
Right.
And then again, too, like with your planner, getting them success is a service. And so again, it's like, you're not taking anything away. You're only adding to their success. And again, if you can set up these automatic updates and even reminders of like checking in 30 days once they've bought their planner, like, hey, how's it going? If you have any questions, like email me or let me know, or what is your favorite feature, or what would be something you'd like to see on a future planner, or just like things like that. It can really, again, drive that connection and maybe help you iterate the next version or whatever that looks like.
That's so funny because I just realized I do that. So I have because I learned from Jenna. I have freebies on my website, right? Like I'm a very good Jenna student. So I have freebies on my website to build my email list, and that works. And I've just created another one, but there are pieces of the planner as a one-page PDF that I use as freebies to then drive. And I'm really good at I've got scheduled emails, a follow up 1 week later to say, have you been trying it? Did you know that I have a full planner? So I nailed that part, and I totally missed the boat on the actual planner follow up. So that's huge. Yeah.
No, and that's so great too. And there's so many statistics around how to increase the value of a customer versus getting a new one. Like the cost to acquire a new customer, I believe, is like 4 to 5 times as much as keeping one.
Makes sense.
And so again, it's like once somebody makes that purchase, like we want to just give them this over the top service-based, like community essenced experience, because that's you. And like, that's why you do this. And I also would believe too, is like, if you were able to actually get somebody to respond back and let you know how their planner is going, that would open the door for communication about like the event and different places like that. And not in a weird way, but just like checking in, like, what are you noticing with your planner? Where are you overwhelmed? Where are you finding pockets of time for you? And just questions like that, because that is such a natural guide in to the other offer, right?
That makes sense. The one thing I did do is when I have feedback is I've used it as testimonials to share more about the planner, but I haven't taken that leap to start talking about the other, like the camp, right? Which is the big one. So
yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but like whenever I look at my planner or a calendar, most of the time there's not scheduled in me time, right?
Yes.
I have to very like prioritize that piece of it. And so I think too, that for your demographic and who you're speaking to, a planner is a really great way to realize like, hey, I'm making time for everything else and everyone else. Where is my time? And so it is a very natural lead in. And again, it doesn't have to be like this hardcore sales tactic. It's more this like communication that can guide people to community, which I think is exactly what you're about.
Totally. Yes. 100%. I love it. Yes.
Awesome.
Oh,
what is your next question?
Okay. So my next question, and this actually follows really well, I think. So I have the planner, I have the podcast, I have the camp. And right now I'm in like a big drive for camp because early bird registration at the time of this recording is about to close. We still have registration open. And so I feel like with all these things and the freebies and everything that I'm competing with myself. So, and I know you have so many offers. So how do I get over the idea that I'm kind of cannibalizing my own promotion by like, if I'm in camp mode and that lasts for months, like camp mode lasts for months, right? If I post about the planner or if I post about the podcast, is it taking away from that camp promotion?
Not at all. So this is something I've been working on. So you and I are together. A lot of times when we are, say, writing out a campaign or our copy. So like even the other day, I was in like 106-page document of email copy that I was going through. A lot of times we're reading it like in order, imagining a customer reading email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in sequential order. And our brain is telling us, oh, they're just reading one after the other. When in reality, days are passing by. They might have missed email 1, but they might open email 3.
Right. Okay.
And so we kind of have to let that go. And I saw the funniest meme the other day, and it was like, girls, stop like being afraid to promote your own stuff. And it was saying like, Petco just sent me 6 emails in the last 3 days and I don't even have a dog. Like we're saying like, don't be so apologetic about it. So I have a couple ideas for this because I love this question. But again, if we add just a tiny bit more strategy to your podcast, so that your podcast, maybe even for 2 minutes a week, you tell a story about camp. You could do like campfire stories on your podcast, something like that, where you talk about why you needed camp, why you created it, who is coming, a story of a past mom that went to camp. And it could just be like a little 2-minute thing where then again, you're guiding people to it. And so again, I think if we can just get a tiny bit more strategy on the podcast, then if you're sending people to the podcast, it doesn't feel like you're cannibalizing filling your event's efforts, right? And then same even with the planner, like you could even have like, this is what I'm envisioning, but like in your confirmation email, having like a colored block where it says like, hey, as you're working through this planner, you might realize that you have no dedicated time for you. If this is the case, you might be interested in checking out blank. And so again, it's just thinking through, because to me, your entire offers, they're so cohesive. They serve the same demographic. It's not like you're speaking to like doctors and then you're speaking to stay-at-home moms. Like you are speaking to the same audience the whole time. And so don't worry about cannibalizing. I think that again, if we can just add a teeny bit of strategy, then it's going to feel like, hey, I want to send people to the podcast, because the people that might not want to read a blog post or read this freebie, they might want to listen. And when I tell that campfire story, they're going to start to like think about that. And again, remembering too that like we as consumers have to see and hear about something like 7, and it's probably way more than that now.
I think it's gone higher. Yeah.
Probably like 20 times. And so like, I think that could just take away that fear of it. The final thing too is like Flowdesk just released these like awesome email templates, and you can do like these beautiful, and you could do this in any platform, but like beautiful graphic blocks. So it could be like, here's what's happening with camp registration this week. Here's what's happening on the podcast. Here's what's happening with a planner, and kind of like a summary or like a roundup. And I've seen some really cool emails come out lately. Every time I see an email that I'm like, oh, this is good, I either forward it to my team or I like store it in a little inbox of like, oh, this caught my attention. But I've seen a lot of cool emails where it's like broken up in blocks. So it's just like, if you're curious about this, read this. If you're curious about this. And so again, I think there's some just interesting ways that you could strategically make it feel like it's cohesive and that there's something for everyone, like a choose your own adventure.
That makes so much sense. I do a not every week because it's not consistent, but I do a Mom Camp Monday check-in email to my list.
Yeah.
And I like to share if I've heard a great podcast episode or if I'm reading a book or something like that, right? But having those blocks would make so much sense because then every time there's an email, they know they're going to get an update or a little tidbit or a tip on each of those three things. So that's awesome. That's so simple. Like everything you said is so simple, but so on target. It's awesome.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You know what I was just thinking too? This weekend, Drew and I are going to a marriage retreat with a ton of people we know. We've never done anything like this. And the reason we're going is because we kept seeing our friends going every year. And we're like, what is this? Like all the people we love are there. Like, tell us more about this. And so like even in your emails, just having a like, hey, like, do you want to make this like a girls getaway? Like forward this to 3 friends you've been meaning to connect with. Like there's so much in, especially with events, like referrals and getting people in together. Cause I think still to this day, a lot of people are afraid to show up alone. And I totally get that. And so I was just thinking like, I would have never heard about this event unless my friends, I kept seeing them talking about it. I'm like, what is this thing? And so like when you're doing those emails too, like I always encourage people like forward this over to somebody, or if you know someone this could help, or if you know, if one of your mom friends just said she's so exhausted and she needs a break, like send this email as a little treat to them kind of thing.
That's so good. So good. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. I have some questions about the events. Are you good?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's dive in.
So Mom Camp, the camp is a weekend retreat for moms. And I don't know if people know this, but events are very expensive to run, especially post-COVID. It's actually like everything's gone up in price. You know, companies have consolidated. And so everything, it's just harder. But I really curate a very specific experience. We bring in furniture. We create this lounge. It's a cozy environment. It's sort of a retro summer camp vibe venue anyways. Sure. So we have to bring in quite a bit to make it feel great. But I'm kind of stuck because I can't cut costs anymore. And then I still want to create this magical experience, but I don't know how to scale the business because I'm virtually breaking even. Right. Yep. Like this is not a moneymaker, even though it is the biggest part of my business. Yeah. And I'm struggling with how to scale the business and grow it and keep it sustainable while not sacrificing experience on the guest side. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Okay.
So for every listener out there, like events, as Jillian just said, are so much work, so much time, so many logistics, and they're beautiful. And how many people do you have that usually come? Or like
usually like 35 to 40 per camp.
So I only did events for 1 year, and it was when I had my mastermind, and I had 25 people. And then with my team, it was around 30-ish. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And also I never wanted to do it again. Have you ever felt that way? Like where, I mean, it's just so life-giving and life-sucking at the same time.
You definitely need recovery time for sure.
Yes. And so, so I was thinking about this morning because I was like, I don't want to get on with Jillian and be like, don't do the event, because I can tell that is like your life force. Like it is, it's your mission. Yeah. So here was my one idea. And again, you can tell me if this doesn't resonate, but this is what I've learned from the boys in business. So I've been a part of a ton of events, right? Like I speak for a lot of different people, a lot of different friends. I've seen the back end of a lot of events. A lot of times people do the events to be able to have an additional offer. Now, this might not resonate immediately, and this might be something you really need to sit with. But the only reason they're doing these events is to break even. But then they have like coaching or connection or community or a mastermind or something that is the next level. Now, if even 5 people out of the 30 did that, that is where the money would come from. That would make the event worth its time. Now, again, this might not resonate. I've been told so many times, like, you need to have a high ticket offer. You need to do this. You need to do that. And it's just not right for me right now. But that is what people are doing when they're doing events. And again, it's something that's not for everyone. And it doesn't have to be this hard sell or like, you can't leave the room until you decide type vibe. But there are a few different things that you can do. So one is that a lot of times when people are in that community environment and they realize how deeply they need it, even just having like a once a month, 60-minute like coaching call or just community call or hot seats or whatever that is, that's really valuable, right? So, you know, you could figure out a price point that feels like it resonates and makes sense, but it keeps people in that community. Another option too is that if you don't want to be like the next leader or like the person that is offering the upsell, you are an amazing facilitator. People that run events are incredible facilitators. So you could say, once a month, I'm going to bring in an expert. We're going to cover X, Y, or Z topics. They're going to guide you in different things. This last year, I was in an amazing mastermind led by my friend Natalie Ellis, knows for CEOs and moms. And one of her greatest gifts is that she is an incredible facilitator. And so even at her event, she brought in all of these different experts to lead us through different things. And it preserved her energy, but it also introduced us to so many different experts. And so that is how people actually make money on events for the most part. I don't know of the people that walk away from an event and they're like, I'm rich. Like this is because they are so expensive. But for the people that you are seeing online doing events, there is likely some sort of additional offer given to people because they are the most primed audience and the most like ready for whatever is that next step. So something to consider. How does that land? Because it's probably something you got to think about.
So when you first started talking about it, I was like, oh, I don't know, because I've been at those events, right? And I've bought the courses because I felt like I can't leave the room. Like it's, you know, and so that it feels like it's a sort of almost like a business to business, like it works for, you know, entrepreneurs for sure. And so I was like, okay, don't use that as a limiting belief. But during COVID, I did virtual camp. And so I had these small Zoom calls, basically. Now, I didn't charge for them because I was just trying to keep people feeling supported and keep the magic alive. But I did bring in speakers, and we have speakers at camp. Part of what Mom Camp is personal development, presentations, workshops, sessions with expert speakers. That's what it's not just a girl's trip away, right? So that's what sets it apart. So that actually totally resonates to once a month do a live call with somebody that people can have access to and sort of make that Mom Camp live throughout the year. Because right now I'm only hosting camp once a year. You know, it's so funny. One of my long-term dreams would be to like franchise or license out the brand and have it go right across North America, right? But then I'm stuck with this. How do I do that if it doesn't make money? Why would anybody ever sign up to license this?
Right. Goal diggers, we all know the B2B landscape can be a bit complex. From lengthy buying cycles to complicated decision-making processes, reaching your target audience can be tough. But I found a solution tailored just for you. LinkedIn ads. A whopping 79% of B2B content marketers say LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. That's because with LinkedIn ads, you're not just casting a wide net and hoping for the best, you're strategically building relationships and driving real results. We're talking about a platform with over 1 billion members, including 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-level executives. You are networking with the actual decision makers. And LinkedIn's targeting and measurement tools are specifically designed for B2B marketers, meaning you're not wasting time or money on irrelevant leads. In fact, in the tech industry, LinkedIn ads have been shown to generate 2 to 5 times higher return on ad spend compared to other social media platforms. Using LinkedIn ads allows you to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to industry trends and developments, whether it's finding the perfect partner for a collaboration or uncovering new opportunities for growth. LinkedIn can be your secret weapon. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/goal to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/goal. Terms and conditions apply. On top of my many titles as mom, entrepreneur, and creative, I've also added host. Drew and I host on Airbnb on our favorite island in Hawaii. We started hosting as a way to make some extra income, and we've had such an easy breezy experience. Now we host year after year, and it's been a fantastic side hustle. Not to brag, but we've also been crowned Airbnb Superhost several times, so we are really killing the game. It's about having spaces we can enjoy as a family while creating memorable experiences for our guests, and it helps that we earn a little extra cash on the side. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. Because it's like, when I think about your business model, and I also think, okay, you're working a full-time job, you have 2 kids, and you're kind of trying to discern like, where's my time best spent? The most obvious thing to me would be to go really big with your planner and make that the profit generator and focus, like zero in on scaling that, because that doesn't take a ton of your time and energy, right? You create it once. Obviously there's some logistics with it, but it's not super complicated. And so the 2 options I would see is to like crush it with the planner and have that help fund the event, or make sure that the event has just another invitation, whether it's signing up for next year's camp, whether it, just different things where it's like, there's this one retreat that I love. If anyone lives over in this area, and it's called Wild Rice Retreat in Bayfield. And every time I go there, I'm like, you need to get me to already book my next stay, because I'm going to stay. I need to do this every 6 months, and it's going to be a whole year before I come back. Like, take my money now.
Which I do that
on the calendars. And like my hairstylist, I've been with her for 5 years. I've never missed an appointment, because when I'm there, she books my next appointment. And so it's like, as in the event space, that idea is so powerful, and yet we don't do it. And
because the energy you're experiencing when you're there, right? So I do that. I always have the next dates ready, and I give them about like a sort of an alumni rate, right? Like if you're a returning camper, you get a special rate, and you lock in within that certain time. So that works really well. It's not huge numbers, but it does work well. People are excited because they don't want to let it go. Right. So there's something to keeping that energy through the year as well. So
think with it.
This makes a lot of sense.
And I feel like too, it again makes so much sense too, if these people are your planner customers, because like when I do my journal, I use it to audit, and I can like really look back and be like, oh, this month like felt so good. Why did it feel so good? What was I excited about? Like, what did my calendar look like? What do I need more of? Or like, this was a really stressful month. Like, I need to say no to more things. And so it gives you kind of that calibration of like, oh my gosh, I have no time for myself, or like, I need to set that aside. And so again, it all makes sense together. But I think scalability is the planner. So that's like the space where whether you sell 10 today or 1,000 today, it's not a ton of extra work on your part for the profits.
And the then price again comes down for me, right?
Exactly.
Like the more, absolutely.
And then just thinking through just a tiny bit more strategy around the event. And if there's just some continuation, because to be honest, like even being in Natalie's mastermind, like having those calls, it was just such a recalibration. And like, again, it was like, I mean, she just was such a she's an incredible educator, but she's such a good facilitator of like checking in. And it's like, when you get the right people on those calls, you don't even really have to talk much, because they're helping each other and going to each other and connecting. And so again, just thinking of some sort of offer that could, like, if you're saying like, hey, if I have 40 people here and 10% of them say yes to this, I feel like that is worth the amount of time and energy and effort I put into this event. And that can sustain me for the next year. And I would bet you that the people that do continue on are going to come to the next event and the one after that. And hopefully they bring friends as well.
Awesome. I love it. I have one more question. Hopefully it doesn't take up.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, and this actually, again, this all just flows really nicely from everything you're saying. So pricing. So events are expensive, have to charge a certain amount, right? But then I get really stuck because I want to make both the planner and the events and whatever offer I create after this conversation. I want to make them as accessible as possible, right? Because moms will spend thousands of dollars on their kids, but my experience, they struggle with spending that money on themselves, right? They have trouble justifying it. And so I want to make it as accessible so that it's available to people, but I also need to cover costs and ideally pay for my own time then ideally make more money, right? Like actually build this business. So how do I get over that pricing hurdle? Because right now I'm sacrificing profit for accessibility.
Yes. Okay, this is so hard. It was really funny. 2 weekends ago, I was with some girlfriends, and one of my friends is starting her own event. And my mom was on her email list. And so I was like, oh, Mom, I'm going to be with my friend Meg. And she's like, tell her event was too cheap. And literally my mom, who and she was like, you need to tell her to charge more. And I had missed how much she was charging. I totally missed. I was like, okay, Mom. So I get together with Meg and I was like, my mom says hi. And she says that your event is too cheap. And Meg starts laughing and she's like, I know. And she's dealing with the same feeling, right? Like, I want it to be accessible. I want people to be able to do this. So there's a few different ways that we can look at this. And I think that logically, a lot of people understand that COVID has changed things and that events are expensive. Like, I don't think people show up and they're like not calculating things in their head, especially women. Like we've planned parties, we've planned weddings. We kind of know. Yeah. So when we charge more, one, people really have to save up for it. And I was telling her, I was like, if you can get people to lock in and they know, 6 months from now is the event and this is the amount of time frame, having things like payment plans can really help with accessibility. But I was telling her, I'm like, those who pay attention. When you have an event and you're charging $100 and, suddenly someone can't come, like people back out at the last minute. I just did this amazing sourdough class and they charged way too little of money and then people weren't showing up. And I was like, these spots could have been taken by people who wanted to be here. But because people weren't really bought in or fully invested, we missed the opportunity to reach more people. And so having payment plans, giving people long lines of savings is great. The other thing too is that if you can increase your profit margin, the likelihood that you will stay in business and continue to put on these events is much greater. And so huge. You continue to keep doing these and you feel like I'm not making money. I can't keep doing this. That robs this experience for everybody, right? And so again, you're teaching people like you have to fill your own cup before you pour into others. Yeah. And the same goes for you. You can do things like scholarships. You can do things like discounts. You can do different things like that when you have more flexibility with the money. There are going to be people where they don't blink at the price, and there are going to be people that are saving their pennies to make sure they can go. That's just how it is. That's how it is across every board, whether we're talking about groceries or vacations, right? And so it's not necessarily like you're not necessarily doing people a service by keeping it lower priced. They're going to be more bought in. They're going to be more invested, but you're also going to have more flexibility and freedom to really use that money in a way like to be a steward of it. Right. And so because I think we all have money mindset things. And like, I think about like the money is going to go somewhere. Like, what if it goes to the people who are actually doing good with it? Like, what does that look like? And so it's just like a different way of stewarding money and thinking about it that way. But I think too, it's like, if you kind of open up that dialogue to like, if you really want to come and like, this isn't in budget, like send me an email. And I feel like people, you can genuinely tell where people are at. But again, if you're getting more off the top, you have more flexibility to honor that for the people that need it. You could also do things like, buy one, get one half off if you have an increased price where you're probably going to be making the same things, but then people bring a friend with and now suddenly, so it's like have a little bit of fun with it and think it through. But like what happens with events is that we're so worried about covering costs that we never even consider time. And if we circle back to the beginning of this conversation with time being our currency, so many of my friends that run events, they're like only looking at like the actual expenses because it's so easy to see them when you're looking at events and rentals and food. And then it's like at the end of the day, the amount of time that they put in, they're making pennies on the dollar. And that's why they stop doing them. And so it's like, if you want to have long-term success in this, and if you want to do this long-term to like bless other moms, then you have to change something.
That hits pretty hard because the idea of like, people have said to me, oh, do you think you'd ever hit a point where you couldn't do this because you're not going to. And I'm like, but I can't imagine taking it away from the people that have already registered, right? Like it's just right. So the idea that it might not exist in future because I'm not charging enough now, that hits pretty hard. Yeah. So that's very helpful for my mindset for sure. Yeah. I do have payment plans right now. It's like every 3 months. It's so accessible right now. And then they slowly get shorter. So people have fully paid before camp. But and then I did have 1 year where I had just enough because I didn't pay for my own time, but I had just enough, and I sponsored a spot for a charity that focuses on moms for their clients. So that is something that really speaks to me as well, is to be able to do that. So I can't do that if I don't make enough money. So that the flexibility that you're talking about, that has resonated very deeply.
Yeah. Good. Oh my gosh. I am so excited for your audience. And I just want to take a moment to pause and say, you have already done so much work. So I just hope that you see like all the big things that you've already put out there. Where can everybody find out more about you, listen to your podcast, get your planner, join your event? Give us all the places.
Awesome. Well, my website is momcamplife.com. My handles on all the socials are momcamplife, although I have TikTok, but I have never actually explored TikTok, so don't look for me there. But momcamplife is all the places. And then you can go to the link there on Instagram and see all the things. The podcast is called Mom Camp Around the Campfire. So your idea of campfire stories is amazing. And then the planner is called Priority Mom, and it's a 90-day undated planner. And that you can get at momcamplife.com as well. Everything is there.
Jillian, I'm so excited to see what you do, and I can't wait for an update from you. I know I'll get one. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and doing this with me today.
Oh, Jenna, thank you. This has been such a gift. Thank you so much.
I absolutely love doing these coaching sessions. They are so much fun. And I love connecting with you, my listeners. It's amazing to hear what you're doing, what you've applied, where you're at, what you're struggling with. And I hope that these are so helpful for you, the listener, to tune into. I have to say, I love that Jillian is doing the work. She is applying so many of the things that she's learning on this show and in other places. And I'm just so stinking proud of her. I also want to say that if you are a mama listening to this show, I hope you go check out her mom camp. It sounds amazing and something that we all could use a little bit more of in our lives. And obviously, if you just fell in love with Jillian like I did, you are in great hands if you decide to join her for her mom camp this year. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to be coached on air on the Goal Digger Podcast, make sure you are a part of our Facebook community. It is the Goal Digger Podcast Insiders Group on Facebook. We've linked it for you in today's show notes. We'd love to have you in there. It's an amazing community filled with our listeners. And I love the opportunity to connect with you in there as well. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. Until next time, keep on digging your biggest goals. I'm over here giving you a virtual high five because you just finished another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. Did that go by way too fast for anyone else? If you want more, head over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for show notes and all the discount codes from today's sponsors. And if you're looking for a new crew of movers and shakers like you to bounce ideas and ask questions, be sure to join my exclusive community for Goal Diggers on Facebook. The link's waiting for you at goaldiggerpodcast.com. Hey, Goal Diggers. Lately, I've been getting excited to finish furnishing our new home, which is why I want to tell you about a brand that we absolutely love, which is Article. I have been a fan and a customer of Article for years. I'm always blown away by the curated assortment of furniture styles they offer. They have mid-century modern, coastal, industrial, Scandinavian, and even boho designs. There is something for everyone, no matter your taste. In our last house, we had their sofa and leather chairs. At our lake house, we have their dining table and chairs. We also just ordered some of their outdoor furniture for our new patio. Like, if you can't tell, we are obsessed with Article. The quality and style are top notch. Article's online only model means that they can offer some great prices with fast and hassle-free delivery. Pick the delivery time that works for you, and they keep you updated every step of the way. Article's customer is also amazing. They're knowledgeable, friendly, and always there when you need them. If you're like me and you're itching to give your home a makeover, I highly recommend checking out Article. They believe in delightful design for every home, and thanks to their commitment to style, quality, and affordability, it's never been easier to transform your space. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/goaldigger and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/goaldigger for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more.